All right, looks like fire season has officially started for California. If you're in California, you probably felt those winds come up Sunday afternoon and evening. That was a big part of the reason that we did have some fire starts across the state. There's a number of them out there. We're going to go over a couple in this video. Largest of those is the Post Fire in Southern California, which is now over 14,000 acres. Just want to show this graphic first because this kind of summarizes the fire weather forecast. We have a red flag warning that's in place through, they extended it. So it now says 8 a.m. Tuesday. The old one I was looking at was saying 8 p.m. on Monday. So that probably depends on locally as well. But what it means, basically high fire danger for two main reasons. Gusty northerly winds around 25 to 35 miles per hour. Also daytime humidities between about 5 and 15%. So daytime humidity 5 and 15%. That's very dry air, especially for this time of the year. It partially is because the winds are coming from that northerly direction. And then the drier the air is, the drier the fuels get, the easier it is for fires to start and spread. So there's a look at some of the different incidents going on across California. We can also break it down, just look at some of the names and numbers here. I'm noticing, look at anything over 1,000 acres. Well, we got the Hernandez fire in San Benito County. That's around 642, 35% containment. Last photo I saw that one, there wasn't that much smoke coming off of it, but that was also when the winds come up this afternoon. That's usually when fire activity becomes a bit more active. So we'll see what happens there this afternoon. We got the Hesperia fire, San Bernardino. That's over 1,000 acres at 30% containment. Not sure how to pronounce this. The Junis fire, Butte County. That's over 1,000 acres, but 95% containment. So that's basically done. And then Point Fire, Sonoma. That's over 1,000, 20% containment. And the Post Fire, that's the largest one that we have. That's over 14,000, and it's only 8% containment. Now, one of the first things I always do when I'm trying to figure out what's going on in California is I look at the satellite imagery, and this is maybe where there's some good news. It looks like it's pretty clear over California. You're not seeing much smoke coming off of those fires, if any. So right when I saw that this morning, I thought, that's at least good news right there. It's not like the fires were extremely active yesterday afternoon, and now we're at like what it sometimes looks like at the peak of wildfire season where California is just covered in smoke. With that being said, though, the fire danger forecast this afternoon, that's dry air, pretty gusty winds. It's a bit early in the season for brush or even like live fuels to be burning that much. We still have some moisture from this last winter, but the grasses dry out very quickly. And we did see a lot more grass growth because of the wet winter that we had. So a lot of the fires that we have been seeing have been in those finer fuels where you get one warm afternoon and in a couple of hours those grasses are dry. So looking at the Point Fire right here, it looks like there's some aircraft on it right now. You can see how they're circling around up there. There are some evacuation orders. I usually don't go over those in these videos because by the time you're watching this, the orders might have changed and that can be potentially dangerous. There's the last shot of it we have, though. It looks like there's some smoke coming off of it right there. Doesn't look like that's completely grass. That actually looks like some green fuels right there. Notice that's not a huge plume, though, and that was from 5 minutes ago. So it's going to be very interesting to see what happens on the Point Fire as we get into this afternoon. The winds increase and the relative humidity drops down. Now, the other one, I could zoom out so you could get a good view of where it is. Maybe debate on, I was calling this Southern California, but I don't know, some people consider Santa Barbara Central California. I saw that the red flag goes through Los Angeles County, though, so I think that's safe to say Southern California. That's beside the point, though. Let's just look at the Post Fire here. Looks like they've got some aircraft on that as well. Where you see the orange, that's where the fire's been more active recently, so that makes sense. The winds have been northerly, so that would be pushing the fire down to the south. And we could look at the forecast in a second. First, I just want to point out that this fire also has some evacuation orders in place, so if you live locally, that's good to keep an eye on. Now, one thing I wanted to show for the Post Fire, so there's the perimeter. Those red dots are going to be where we've had more recent activity. Then we could click on structures, which is these little orange dots that are now flashing on the screen. It's good news the direction that this fire seems to be moving, because you notice more structures up on this northern side of the fire. So they most likely stopped it right there. Oh, that looks like they used a road as a fuel break right there. Now, looking down here, that's where it's more active, but notice not seeing as many of those orange dots, so less structures threatened, although it does look like there's some structures on this right side here. So if you get a northwesterly wind in the afternoon, that would try to push the fire towards there. So that's definitely something I'll be watching closely this afternoon. We can actually just look at the weather forecast across California going into this afternoon. Look how those winds increase up to maybe 35 to 40 miles per hour later this afternoon, but especially down here in Southern California. Look at that right there. That's a 52 mile per hour gust. So that's going to be in your higher elevations. But anything over 30 miles per hour with dry air in your grasses can lead to pretty fast fire spread. So winds definitely a factor this afternoon. I'm interested. Let's just click into tomorrow afternoon. Looks like it's not as windy tomorrow. So that's good news there. Now let's check the relative humidity, because again, drier your air is, drier your fuels are going to be, and that's about as dry as you're ever going to see this time of the year. Relative humidity in the single digits, that's actually pretty rare for this time of the year. So yeah, got both components there. It's dry, it's windy, and temperatures actually aren't a big factor throughout the day today. But the main reason temperature is important on fire is because the hotter it is, the drier it is. And because of the direction the wind is coming from, that's pushing in drier air anyway. So, it doesn't really help us that much that we're not seeing exceptionally warm temperatures. We're actually slightly below average in Northern California. But the same reason for that is the same reason we have gusty winds. And it's because of this little trough that you see moving through the Pacific Northwest right there. So that's bringing, slightly cooler air. But look how close those lines are together. And then as that moves off, you notice those lines get farther apart as we get later in the week. So you might be able to see that better right here. The reason that's important, the closer those lines are together, those are isobars, lines of constant pressure. Closer those are, the stronger your winds are going to be. So you could see why we have some strong winds, especially up in Northern California and in some of our higher elevations this afternoon. But as we get later in the week, look at these lines spread out. So winds are going to definitely die down later in the week. The only downside is the reason that's happening is because there's a big ridge moving in, and that's going to bring some much warmer air. So you kind of decrease fire danger in one way, but then you increase it in another. So it looks like there's a warm up towards the end of the week. I think we cross that bridge when we get to it, though, because main story right now is the fact that we have the red flag warning going on. I want to just, now that we have a second, I want to actually click on it, because I think that, oh yeah, they did officially extend it. Red flag warning remains in effect until 8 a.m. on Tuesday. So there's a number of different incidents that we're going to be following throughout the day today, keeping an eye on. I'd say the main one I'm watching is the post fire. Probably number 2 one I'm watching is the point fire. And then also interested to see what happens on that Hernandez fire. But I'm mostly interested in that one because it's close to home. So yeah, that's the first update and forecast for wildfires so far this season, at least from me. I'm sure there's going to be a lot more to come, though. This is pretty early start to fire season. I usually don't do videos until mid-August. And I kind of have a threshold where if there's no evacuation orders, I usually don't start making videos. But now that we have some, looks like we're off to a pretty quick start. That could be potentially some bad news for the rest of the season. Keep in mind, the last 2 wildfire seasons have been really slow, really small, not many acres burned. That was good the last 2 years, but not that many fuels cleared out. So we've got those larger fuels that'll dry out later in the season. And then right now, the grasses are already starting to dry. So that's big part of the reason we're seeing some of the fires popping up right now. But that's our update and forecast for today. You could stay tuned for more updates. I also post short form videos to basically all the different social media accounts, where if you don't have time to watch one of these videos, you can kind of get the gist of what I'm saying in 1 minute or less. So hopefully you have a good day, and thanks for watching.